LoveLore Library. Chapter 1187, Tianshan Manor's difficulty. At this moment, Mu Qingyin somehow felt that Gui was very dazzling. Maiden Feng, Emperor Xian Yuan timidly paused, his voice seemed troubled with uncertainty. I've already brought you here. So, can I leave now? Feng Riching just smiled faintly and did not say anything. By looking at her expression, Emperor Xian Yuan's heart trembled violently. He pursed his lips into a hard smile. Nothing. I was just casually wondering out loud. By the way, up ahead is where the savage, Tun, is located. So, should we rest here for a while, or do we keep going forward? He knew how to deal with Tun, but he was the emperor of a kingdom with precious rank and honor after all. If not because of Feng Ruking's spirit beast that could transform into a human, he would not come here alone. And thus, he had never seen the savage. Feng Ruqing paid no attention to Emperor Xian Yuan. She and Nan Xian led a group of people behind them into the savage's territory. The moment they stepped into this mountain forest, they could feel that the air was somewhat different. Dark clouds were settling upon the sky, and the surrounding appeared gloomy. That was the power of the savage. Suddenly, Feng Ruqing stopped in her tracks. Gui accidentally bumped into her. Her nose had turned red, and her eyes were teary as she looked at the young girl who had stopped abruptly. Second uncle, take care of Gui. Feng Ruking's expression was solemn as she slowly grasped the sword hilt with her hands. This windy, boisterous mountain forest had given her a powerful pressure. Roar! A deafening roar resounded through the mountain, causing the entire mountain forest to shake as if the ground was shaking. The sound gave a feeling that it could shatter the eardrum to pieces. Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian remained calm, but Gui's face was a bit pale. She was the weakest person among them. Hence, blood had instantly flowed from her nose, and her ears were sore. She covered her ears with her palms. Second uncle, I feel terrible. That sound continued on for a long time, and those with low strength could not bear it. If continued, Gui would probably bleed to death. Mu Qingyin covered Gui's hand with his hands and tightly covered her ears, hoping that this would block out some pressure. The savage is inside. Second uncle, you stay here with Yi. Nan Xian, let's go find that savage, me for extra chapters. Gui would not be in so much pain if they could stop the savage's cry. Emperor Xian Yuan abashedly said, Maiden Feng, you don't have to worry. I'll take care of them for you, you must follow me. Ha! This guy is a holy warrior. Leaving second uncle and Gui to him, isn't like leaving a lamb in a tiger's den. They will never come out alive. The only way to be safe was bringing him with her. Emperor Xian Yuan was on the verge of tears as he did not want to face that savage. And Feng Ruqing laughed. We are not certain whether the method you've given us will work or not, so you must follow me. You don't have to stay as the emperors of other kingdoms are here to protect second uncle and Gui. She believed more in these people who had been transformed by the huge pot compared to Emperor Xian Yuan. Yes, master. The emperor's expression carried respect, and even their gaze toward Feng Ruqing was respectful. They were different from Emperor Xian Yuan. It was not possible. Its daughter-in-law must be a savage too. It was tough to tame a savage, and it was impossible to tame it just with a few spirit herbs. She thought for a moment. Was it impossible that its daughter-in-law was among those spirit beasts that had followed her to Tianyu Kingdom? But looking at Tun's furious look, it seemed like what Fu Qin said just now might be true. Did she really snatch its daughter-in-law? We can't let it continue shouting. Little Guogua, smash it. Feng Ruqing quickly snapped back to reality and commanded in a stern voice. The huge pod rushed toward the savage and swiftly smashed it, but the savage's head was too hard. The huge pod growled as it felt its body being numbed by the shock. Little pot. Foam Rooking's face fell and continued. The huge pod understood the meaning of Foam Rooking's words. It turned over its body, pouring all the spirit water from itself. Chapter 1189, Tianshan Manners Difficulty 3. Emperor Xian Yuan was surprised as he looked at such a large amount of spirit water. His mouth watered. So much spirit water. As long as he was given time to absorb it slowly, it would be easy for him to make a breakthrough. But it was used to deal with the savage right now. Roar! The savage let out a monstrous roar. Its claws began to burn, and a pair of bloodthirsty eyes stared cruelly at Foam Roaching. This time it was not only filled with anger but also pain. Tun was indeed afraid of the spirit water, which could erode it, but that was all. For the mighty Tun, this would not kill it. The intense anger that it felt when facing Foam Roaching carried a deep pain, so it slammed its body desperately against the barrier. Foam Roaching turned her head to Emperor Xian Yuan. Didn't you say that the spirit water was able to deal with it? Seeing the vicious, furious Tun, Emperor Xian Yuan unconsciously gulped. Maybe, that was not enough. Would you like to add more spirit water? There's no use in doing that. Without waiting for Foam Roaching to speak, Nan Xian's light and refreshing voice spoke again. The spirit water can only hurt its skin and not its bones. This spirit water won't have much effect on it. Emperor Xian Yuan's face changed as he noticed that Foam Roaching was staring at him. Her gaze carried a light that made his heart shudder, and he had subconsciously taken a few steps back. A crisp sound was suddenly heard. Foam Roaching followed the sound, and in the next moment, her face changed drastically. The barrier, which was still strong just now, was already broken, leaving a gaping hole. The savage violently slammed forward, carrying a domineering aura with its fierce eyes. Emperor Xian Yuan, who was trembling just now, cried out in shock. Maiden Foam, what have you done to this savage? It's been locked up for so many years and couldn't break it out. But why does it want to come out now and kill you? Everyone could see that the savage hated Foam Roaching so much that it would even risk its life to kill her. Foam Roaching blushed and said angrily, "Shut up, don't speak nonsense. I didn't do anything, me for extra chapters." Emperor Xian Yuan burst into tears. You should quickly return its wife to it. The savage is almost out, and once it comes out, none of us will survive. Boom! Before the savage could rush out, Nan Xian had raised his hand, and like a windstorm, he instantly hit Emperor Xian Yuan. The emperor collided with a huge tree before slowly sliding down the tree. Emperor Xian Yuan was now lying on the ground, half dead. Nan Xian stared at the savage while holding Foam Roaching tightly in his arms. Chapter 1190, Tianshan Manners Difficulty for Qinger, Trust me, okay? Foam Rooking's voice was stuck in her throat for a moment before she said, all right. She believed him. Nan Xian would fulfill anything that he had promised her. Nan Xian, Foam Roaching lifted her hand and grabbed Nan Xian's lapel. Don't force yourself if you can't fight it, and run when you should. If you dare to die in a place like this, you'll throw your body to Jiuming and he will do whatever he wants with you. Nan Xian was speechless. One more thing. He'll be waiting for you on the other side of the boundary, and you must come to me. If you don't come, I'll really throw you to Jiuming. That man is a pervert, and he even has lots of dirty thoughts about you. Nan Xian lifted his hand and pulled that girl into his embrace. Don't worry, how could I ever leave you? Yes. How could he ever leave her? Several thousand years ago, Nan Changfeng had died in the 9th Emperor's arms, but the boy was never afraid of anything. He was not afraid of death. He was only afraid that once he died, he would never see her again. How could he leave her alone in this world? No, that was not right. The ninth emperor was never alone, as she had had countless women in her harem. But Nan Chongfeng had always felt that once he left this world, the ninth emperor would be lonely. There was no difference now. He would live a full life for her sake. All right. Feng Ruking's voice trembled a bit as she left Nan Xian's embrace. Emperor Xian Yuan panicked. Take me with you. I want to leave this place, too. I'm afraid. No one answered him. Feng Ruqing had sent Fu Chen and Qing Han to the medium. They could not help much with their strength, and having them here would only drag Nan Xian down. Fu Chen always thought that he had become strong after he had woken up and was not expecting that he would be a burden to anyone. Me for extra chapters. However, facing such a powerful beast, he could not do anything but leave this place with Feng Ruqing. Nan Xian would never let them stay. He did not know if there was still any danger inside. Fu Chen had to follow Feng Ruqing so he could face this fierce beast peacefully. Pop! The barrier was completely shattered into pieces. Initially, that barrier was invisible to people, and only that savage could sense the barrier's existence. But once it shattered, the pieces changed into countless rays of light and dissipated into the air. As the beast rushed forward, Feng Ruqing only felt that her whole body had loosened up. She then transformed into a sharp sword and flew away swiftly, gradually disappearing from Nan Xian's eyes. Nan Xian was at ease now. His white robe floated with the wind as he stood, staring at the beast with his cold gaze. The beast could not catch Feng Ruqing anymore, so it took all its anger out on Nan Xian, and with a furious roar, the huge mountain-like figure rushed over to him. The whole sky darkened as if there were black clouds overhead, making the surroundings seem gloomy. A short distance away, Feng Ruqing fell throughout the void, landing safely in a pile of messy grass. She stood up and clenched her fists tightly as she looked back in the direction from where she had flown a moment ago before slowly retracting her gaze. Mother, Fu Chen's soothing voice came from the medium. Father is so powerful, so you don't have to worry. He will definitely come back for you. He will return. Chapter 1191, Tianshan Manners Difficulty v. Fu Chen emphasized those last three words as if to convince himself to believe Nan Xian. Feng Ruqing looked determined. Well, I believe in him too. Because he was her state preceptor. He was the one she had decided to be with since the very beginning after coming to this mainland. She was willing to believe every word he said, forever. Let's go. We can't waste any more time. I must break this seal quickly to save him. If Nan Xian was struggling there, then she must not let him down. The sky here was much brighter than that place, and even the air was exceptionally fresh and crisp. Feng Ruqing quickly made her way to the edge of the mountain to break the seal. She walked as fast as the wind, leaving only a shadow behind. To leave Fangzhou mainland, Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian had gotten themselves into danger. And at the same time, Tianshan Manor was not in a good situation either. Since that day, after receiving a group of skilled masters from Jia Axayan, Mu Huan did not go to the Mu family to pick Qin Yan, but she went to the Qin family first to look for Qin Li. Qin Li had long planned to rebel, but he was weak. He had just made a breakthrough to lower Holy Warrior tier a few years ago. He took many spirit herbs during this whole year of closed-door cultivation but could not continue to make a breakthrough. But Chief Manor Gu Shi had reached intermediate Holy Warrior tier earlier. With just one tier of difference, the level of strength was so different. Otherwise, Qin Li would not have wanted to kill Gu Yi to make Gu Shi lose his will to live just so he could seize the throne. However, everything had changed since Mu Huan's arrival. Mu Huan had given Qin Li a spirit herb that could enhance the cultivator's strength. But this spirit herb was limited only to women. Qin Li's first thought was Qin Feier. Therefore, he had given Qin Feier the spirit herb without hesitation. Qin Feier's strength was indeed good, but her illness back then had stopped her from cultivating. Because of that spirit herb, she could enhance all the strength and had made a breakthrough to advanced holy warrior tier. Me for extra chapters. Qin Li was pleasantly surprised when it worked, but the Qin family's Lady Wen Yu was so worried about her daughter. Qin Li was blinded by greed. He had never once wondered that if this spirit herb was perfect, why did Mu Huan not use it himself, but instead gave it to the Qin family? If there was no repercussion, how could it be so effective? The situation in Tianshan Manor had changed after Qin Feier's breakthrough. Various clans had sensed the tense atmosphere and split into two factions. One faction, led by the old master of the Mu family, stood on the chief manor's side. The other faction was those who had sensed something weird but still chose to stay with the Qin family because of their fear of death. A war within Tianshan Manor was on the verge of breaking out. The Qin family. In a young girl's room, Qin Feier was sitting in front of the window, staring blankly at the lake outside the window. She was so beautiful, but the wrinkles had already spread from the corners of her eyes. Xiao Yu, have I been aging a little more lately? Qin Feier touched the corners of her eyes and asked in a faint voice. Xiao Yu, Qin Feier's new servant, lowered her head timidly as she replied, "Young lady always looks young and beautiful." Xiao Yu, Qin Feier laughed bitterly. Don't lie to me. I'm very conscious of my appearance. I've aged faster since I took the spirit herb given by my father. And look. I already have white hair. Chapter 1192, Tianshan Manor's Difficulty 6. Xiao Yu stiffened, not daring to say more. Fortunately, Qin Feier had always been very kind to her servants. She did not force her to say much but continued muttering to herself, that spirit herb is so effective, it will take something from me for sure. I've used all of my strength to make a breakthrough to such a powerful tier, which means I'll also lose my youthful years. Young lady, many people in Tianshan Manor have spent their entire life to break through to advanced holy warrior tier. Young lady has been able to make a breakthrough. It is enough to prove that young lady is so talented and powerful. Xiao Yu looked up and said. Qin Feier chuckled. He hasn't returned yet. Xiao Yu naturally knew who Qin Feier was referring to and replied respectfully, young master Qin Chen is in the Mu family and has never returned. Chainer is not my brother, but I've treated him as my own brother. But, I'm no match for that outsider. Qin Feier clenched her fists tightly, then loosened them after a while. I still let him go, so I want him to come back now, and since he has chosen to do this, there is nothing I can do. Qin Feier knew that the Qin family owed Qin Chen a debt, and she had done her best to make up for it. But why did he still choose to leave? Xiao Yu, Qin Chen had left the last drug primer before he left, and am reluctant to use it. Please bring it to me. The drug primer, which was drawn through fresh blood, had been her life-saving drug. Hasn't young lady recovered from her illness? Young lady looks healthy since the breakthrough, Xiao Yu asked dumbly. Qin Feier smiled lightly and said, the Qin family has not kept anything of his since he left. He has abandoned our love and left the Qin family, so why should I be too attached to it? Bring it to me. He had used countless spirit herbs to prepare the drug primer, so it is very precious. We can't waste it. Yes, young lady. Xiao Yu bowed respectfully and left. Qin Feier stared at the sky casually. She did not blame Feng Ruqing for taking Nan Xian away from her because Qin Feier was too slow and did not seize the opportunity quickly. However, enriching. Should not have killed the servant who had been like her sister since she was a child, and enriching should not have taken her brother whom she had cared so much for. Ever since that day, she was no longer the weak and innocent Chen Fei she once was. Me for extra chapters. Her father was right. To deal with a wicked person like enriching, she had to be stronger than her. So powerful that she would no longer dare to bully her Chen family again. Fei, when you had walked through the door and stood behind Chen Fei, her gaze carried a hint of worry. Chen Fei stood up. Mother, it's getting late. We've given the Mu family and the Luo family time to consider, and now they must choose between Gu Shi and us. When Yu stared worriedly at the wrinkles that had appeared in the corners of Chen Fei's eyes, and there was some regret in her heart. She did not know whether it was right or wrong for her to kill the servant and blame enriching deliberately. She knew that the servant was important to her daughter, but she had still beaten her to death with a stick angrily and had hurt her daughter. She was tolerant before, but now she was greedy for power. Of course, the servant's death was just bait, and Qin Chen's departure was like adding oil to the fire. What made anger boil up in Chen Fei was her resentment, jealousy, and grudge. Her emotions had been hidden for so long that even she had not noticed it. But all it took was a few catalysts to coax the anger until it was impossible to hide it anymore. Chapter 1193, Tian Shan Manners Difficulty 7. The Mu Family. The old Master Mu was sitting high above everyone. His face darkened, and his gaze was cold and serious. Besides Mu Ling, there were a few uncles of the Mu family sitting below him. These people looked unpleasant, and some of them frowned. Master, if the Qin family wants to rebel, we have to choose one of them. Qin Fei's strength has surpassed Gu Shi now. If we side with the Gu family, maybe the Mu family will be in deep trouble. That's right, Master. Anyway, Gu Shi has seized his place as the chief manor. His action is illegitimate, and he might be destroyed as his strength is not powerful enough right now. So why should we interfere? In my opinion, it's better for us to side with the Qin family. Don't be like that fool of the Luo family, who was captured by the Qin family for supporting Gu Shi. Now their fate is unknown, and those clansmen of the Luo family all hate him to death. Master, for the sake of the Mu family, you must make a choice. It's not easy for our Mu family to survive in Tianshan Manor for so many years. We can't let our empire be destroyed by them. Old Master Mu's cold face grew colder, yet he never uttered a single word, and the people were unable to guess what was on his mind. Just then, a light laugh came from outside the door. They turned their heads and saw a beautiful figure with a long snow-colored robe coming from the door. From the moment Sui appeared, Mu Ling's eyes were fixed on her. His eyes were somewhat dazed as he could not keep his eyes off her. He had not been able to get close to Sui since she moved into the old master's yard a year ago. It was as if time was stopped at this moment. His eyes were filled with the figure of a woman who looked like an immortal, stunning like their first encounter back then. Time had blessed her as she had no marks on her face. Compared to him and Chen Qinyan, both were already old. Only she remained the same, stunning as before. Sui walked in with a smile. It's impossible for you guys to give up Gu Shi. The old master and Gu Shi have decided the marriage between Xiao Qingyin and Gu Yi. Just wait for them to come back to set the marriage. Do you think the old master will abandon the Gu family in Xiao Qingyin? The uncle's expressions had changed drastically. They hated Chen Qingyan and accepted Sui, but for them, the Mu family's matters must come first, and conspiring with Gu Shi at this time would send them to death. Me for extra chapters. Young lady, master and the Gu family only made a verbal agreement, so it doesn't matter. Since the second young master has recovered, there are no worries about finding another woman. Sui smiled and said, "Firstly, am not the young lady of the Mu family, as your young lady is only Chen Qingyan. Secondly, Xiao Qingyin and the old master are both men of great affection. What makes you think that they would abandon Gu Shi?" The hall was windless, but the corner of Sui's robe was swaying gently. Her gaze was as calm as before, but the coldness in her black eyes was unsettling. "Pop!" Old Master Mu smashed the table with his hand and stood violently. "That's enough. Master. Everything will be done according to Sui's words, and since I've promised Gu Shi to get married, I won't break that promise." What was the difference between a man and a beast if he did not keep his word? He was not Mu Ling, who could ignore the promise he had given to Sui back then. He had promised Gu Shi with the engagement, and no matter what, the Mu family could not break their promise. "All my sons are bastards, and only my grandchildren have listened to me." Mu Ling was speechless. Somehow, he felt a pain in his heart. Sui cleared her throat and said awkwardly, "Old Master, Xiao Qingyin must be sad if he knows this." "Oh, that has nothing to do with me." The old master Mu glanced at the people present coldly. "You can't discuss much here either, so this is the end of today's meeting. All of you are dismissed." The people were a bit hesitant and wanted to continue to persuade him, but the old Master Mu's temper had always been too difficult to handle. "Master!" Suddenly, a voice came through the door in a haste. When the old Master Mu looked up, he saw one of the guards running into the hall, sweating and almost crying. "Old Master, something bad has happened. The scouts reported that people from the Qin family are heading this way, seemingly heading to our Mu family." Chapter 1195, Tianshan Manners Difficulty 9. Just as the words were spoken, the once quiet main hall became noisy in a blink of an eye. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear and panic. They were afraid that the Mu family would be destroyed. They were even more afraid that they would lose their lives here. "Master, quickly think of a solution. If there really is no choice, then cut all connection with Gu Shi. After that, bring young Master Nan Xian. That's right, and that guy called Qin Chen, and send them both out. You cannot go down the history of the Mu family as the person who caused the downfall of the family." Those people were speaking in turn and were so anxious that tears were almost about to fall. Old Master Mu was righteous and his face was kind and dignified. This time, he was no longer looking at anyone. He did not even glance at his own son. He looked at Sui alone. "Sui, looks like only we can handle these people this time." Sui gave a small smile and said, "No problem. I stayed here for Old Master. It is not related to other people. The survival or destruction of the Mu family is not related to me. I am only here for Old Master who has treated me well back then." "Ha ha ha, Sui, in the future, do not address me as Old Master anymore. You can address me as father as you did before. Not as a daughter-in-law, but rather as a daughter. You were unable to become my daughter-in-law, but you are still my daughter. Calling me father is not too much, is it?" Old Master laughed and said. Sui's heart felt warm. Father. She was an orphan and was alone in a foreign land. She was also not the biological daughter of Old Master. Yet she was able to experience the warmth of a family from him. Therefore, she had chosen to stay in the Mu family to accompany the lonely Old Master until Mu Qingyin returned. The old housekeeper walked into the hall. He was obviously already very old, but his spine was rigid and straight, great and tall like the generals on a battlefield. "Old Master, from the moment you took me in back then, my life was already yours. Also, the orphans that Lady Sui had taken in back then, they are here. Therefore, it will not be just the two of you. Although the Mu family's people are not willing to go to the battle, you still have us. Old Master's old face twitched and finally turned into a small smile. Good. Ha ha ha. I have never been afraid of anyone in my entire life. If the Mu family is no more, we can rebuild it again another day. If credibility is lost, the entire life is gone. He had never done anything that would go against his principles and abandon righteousness in his entire life. To him, keeping promises was more important than life itself. Just like back then, he had promised that he would only acknowledge his first daughter-in-law in his entire life, only Sui alone. He would not go back against his words in this lifetime. Master, me for extra chapters. The moment Old Master was about to step out of the main hall, another guard rushed over, put his fist to his palm, and reported, "Young lady has returned." Young lady. Mu Huan. Old Master frowned. Mu Huan had disappeared for quite some time. Why did she return home now? Old Master did not like Chen Qingjian's two children. However, they were still considered to be in the same generation of his grandchildren. He would not give them a part of the Mu family, but similarly, he also did not wish for them to lose their lives just like that. Make her leave. Old Master's face was stern. If it was Mu Shi, then he could have let it go. After all, he was a man from the Mu family. He definitely did not wish for his own grandson to be a weakling. Mu Huan was a girl and naturally did not need to charge to the front lines for her family clan. Truth be told, no matter how much Old Master Mu disliked these two children, he was still clear that their personalities were problematic because Chen Qingyan had brought them up them wrongly. Children are blank slates. Chapter 1196, Mu Huan's Threat. Mu Huan looked at Old Master Mu with a cold gaze and an expressionless face. The Mu family is currently in such a dangerous predicament. I cannot stand aside and just watch from the sidelines. Today, I have come to help the Mu family. You do not have the right to chase me away. Old Master Mu's face turned pale. His good intentions had been twisted into ill intentions. Since she had such thoughts, then there was no need for him to say anything more. He had already reached his limit of compassion toward Chen Qingjian's two children. The eyes of the uncles in the Mu family that were originally dim, lit up when they heard Mu Huan's words. However, the Mu family was facing unprecedented dangers this time. Did Mu Huan really have the ability and sufficient cultivation to help the Mu family? Mu Ling did not have much hatred or disgust toward Mu Huan as she was still his blood and flesh. Back then when Nan Xian had treated him the way he did, he was able to endure that. Even when Mu Shi was such a jerk, he was still able to turn a blind eye to his actions. Through these, one could see that he had quite a bit of tolerance toward his own blood and flesh. Currently, everything that had gone wrong was all Chen Qingjian's fault. These two children were all innocent. Mu Ling was just about to call out to Mu Huan when he saw Sui, who was calm as usual, from the corner of his eye. In the end, he swallowed back the words that were at the tip of his tongue. Sui did not like Chen Qingyan and disliked these two children even more. So, if he wanted Sui to forgive him, he definitely could not display any care or concern toward Mu Huan now. Mu Huan, however, was looking at Mu Ling in expectation. Her face fell and turned cold. She suddenly recalled the words Mu Shi had said a few days back and involuntarily clenched her fist as she sneered. Mu Ling, my mother has always been affectionate toward you. Yet, you have almost beaten her to death for another woman. Now, the sins the Mu family is bearing is the retribution you deserve. That was right. This was retribution. It was a good thing that heaven was not blind, allowing her to obtain Lord Jia Xin's affection and thus obtaining this opportunity, to let these people who had badly hurt them, mother and daughter, compensate. Huaner. Mu Ling's face changed and carried a hint of anger. Did you just shout at me? When did you become so disrespectful? Mu Huan's lips curled up sardonically. You have abandoned my mother for an outsider who has long left the Mu family and even tormented her to such an extent. Do you really consider me your daughter? Today, I am here to tell the Mu family that I have the ability to protect the Mu family, but that depends on what the Mu family does. Just as she finished speaking, a few figures appeared and stood behind Mu Huan. These people all had cold, stern looks, just like an icy, watchful sculpture. Their gazes carried appalling murderous intent. Me for extra chapters. What was more shocking was that these people's cultivation were all of Holy Warrior tier. Even the worst amongst them was at intermediate Holy Warrior tier. There were even 2 who were at advanced Holy Warrior tier. Mu Ling finally understood why Mu Huan had such courage to speak the words she had spoken. Immediately, he looked at Mu Huan's belly. There was a slight bulge at her abdomen. As it was not obvious, he had initially thought that she had gained weight. It was only then, Mu Ling noticed that Mu Huan had been putting her hand on her belly this whole time as a sneer hung on her face. It was so glaring. Huaner, you are pregnant. These words were like thunder on a sunny day, shocking all the people present. Even for a snobbish man like Mu Ling, his eyes were full of fury at this moment. He had indeed thought of using Mu Huan to forge a marital alliance, but now, Mu Huan was not even married. Getting pregnant before marriage, where would this leave the Mu family's reputation? How could he bear this? Chapter 1197, Mu Huan's Threat 2, You do not need to meddle in my affairs. I am here this time for Sui's life. Mu Huan's eyes were full of fury. If Mu Ling were to personally kill Sui, then I am willing to give the Mu family a chance. I will level the Qin family. All of you can see the people behind me. These people are not the strongest ones on my husband's side. If all of you do not agree, then I will let the Mu family's life and death run its own course. She had initially used the Qin family and not personally taken action to force Mu Ling to personally kill Sui. That person was the culprit who had snatched away her father and the cause of her mother's depravity. If it were not because of the Sui and her son, she would not have had to serve a man she did not even love. All these grudges, she vented them on Sui. Her eyes were full of anger and even carried murderous intent. Mu Ling's body froze. He had never had to make such a choice throughout his life. One was his family clan, another was a woman he already owed a lot to. Mu Huan, do you really wish to do this? Mu Ling's voice was a little shaky, seemingly containing an insuppressible anger. Do you know what you are doing? This was not Sui's fault. Mu Huan never thought that at such a critical juncture, Mu Ling still spoke on behalf of Sui. The hatred in her eyes increased. Mother had told me that the 2 of you knew each other first and were truly in love. Sui was someone who came after that. It was she who had stolen the marriage that should have belonged to my mother. All this is her fault. Mu Huan. Mu Ling shouted. Back then, Sui did not know about the relationship between your mother and me. Yes, I had promised to take care of Qinqinyan. It was I who had gone back on my words. However, I still allowed her to enter the Mu family. I had previously thought that she had saved me a couple of times and felt guilty, thus I had made such a promise to her. Now I realized, the thought of giving one's life to save another is just a joke. Ever since he got to know about Qinqinyan's character, Mu Ling realized many things. He also realized how many things he had done in the past that had hurt Sui. No matter how much entanglement there was between Qinqinyan and his relationship, Sui was innocent. She was someone who had no knowledge of it. She had always thought that he and Qinqinyan were merely cousins. It was him who had kept it all a secret. Now that Mu Huan was making such accusations, it made him feel depressed. It even seemed as if dark clouds were floating above his head. Now, I do not care. Mu Ling, I will only give you a chance. Will you kill Sui, or not? Mu Huan sneered. I have long understood you. Might, status, and family clan were always the most important things in your heart. You have forced Nan Xian to marry a wife and take in concubines for power. You would even more so force me to give myself away. However, now, I have found a person to rely on all on my own. In the future, I will no longer need to count on you. Mu Ling turned silent. His handsome face turned pale. He slowly turned his head and looked at a woman dressed in white. She was elegant and otherworldly, like a fairy from a painting. The wind was lightly blowing and the sky was clear. She looked incredibly calm and collected, as if she was not affected in any way by the words Mu Huan had spoken. Perhaps, she had long been disappointed in him. Let me see who dares to hurt Sui. Old Master Mook shouted in anger and walked in front of Sui. Mu Huan, compared to Mu Shi, I have always thought you were a good child although you had a bad temper. It was just that you were brought up wrongly by your mother. Now, as I see it, a daughter takes after her mother. It is hereditary and cannot be changed. Chapter 1198, Mu Huan's threat. 3 Chen Qingjian's mother was like that. Chen Qingyan was like that. Now, even Mu Huan was like this. It was true what the saying says, like mother, like daughter. Mu Huan sneered at old Master Mu. You old thing, you have no right to open your mouth in this place. If it were not because of this old thing, her mother would not have had such a pitiful life. 1,000 cuts at these Mu family's people were not sufficient to vent her anger. Old Master Mook shook his sleeves and stood upright with his back ramrod straight. His calm tone carried unruffled confidence. I am the head of the Mu family. I have the right to decide on any matters regarding the Mu family. He, Mu Huan sneered without care. The Qin family's people are about to arrive. You want to defend Sui. Have you ever thought about how the other members of the Mu family feel? This is the end of you being the Mu family's head. As predicted, the weak-minded uncles of the Mu family had ugly expressions on their faces. To them, sacrificing Sui alone to keep the whole Mu family was too good of a deal. Only the head of the family would be so stubborn as to keep her alive. Master, Nan Sui is no longer a member of our Mu family. We can let it go that you decided not to abandon Gu Shi, but to abandon the whole Mu family for an outsider. Is it worth it? Currently young Lady Mu Huan has this kind of capability. We need to agree to any of young Lady Mu Huan's conditions. Now, it is only her who is able to protect our Mu family, me for extra chapters. Master, what are you still thinking about? Later on, we will hold back old Master. You go and settle Nan Sui. As long as the Mu family is protected, is there any kind of woman you would not able to have? If we lose the Mu family, there would be nothing left. Mu Huan's brows were covered in delight. Chapter 1198, Mu Huan's threat. 3 Chen Qingjian's mother was like that. Chen Qingyan was like that. Now, even Mu Huan was like this. It was true what the saying says, like mother, like daughter. Mu Huan sneered at old Master Mu. You old thing, you have no right to open your mouth in this place. If it were not because of this old thing, her mother would not have had such a pitiful life. 1,000 cuts at these Mu family's people were not sufficient to vent her anger. Old Master Mook shook his sleeves and stood upright with his back ramrod straight. His calm tone carried unruffled confidence. I am the head of the Mu family. I have the right to decide on any matters regarding the Mu family. He, Mu Huan sneered without care. The Qin family's people are about to arrive. You want to defend Sui. Have you ever thought about how the other members of the Mu family feel? This is the end of you being the Mu family's head. As predicted, the weak-minded uncles of the Mu family had ugly expressions on their faces. To them, sacrificing Sui alone to keep the whole Mu family was too good of a deal. Only the head of the family would be so stubborn as to keep her alive. Master, Nan Sui is no longer a member of our Mu family. We can let it go that you decided not to abandon Gu Shi, but to abandon the whole Mu family for an outsider. Is it worth it? Currently young Lady Mu Huan has this kind of capability. We need to agree to any of young Lady Mu Huan's conditions. Now, it is only her who is able to protect our Mu family. Master, what are you still thinking about? Later on, we will hold back old master. You go and settle Nan Sui. As long as the Mu family is protected, is there any kind of woman you would not able to have? If we lose the Mu family, there would be nothing left. Mu Huan's brows were covered in delight. So what even if these people had previously accepted Sui? With just a few words from her, was she not able to get rid of Sui? This was the advantage of having power. For the first time, she was a little grateful that her mother had given her away to Jia Axin. Otherwise, she would not have had such undefeatable power. Furthermore, these snobs would not have so easily agreed and bowed to her. Furthermore, she had the power to decide on Sui's life and death. A man like Mu Ling who was so afraid of death and so greedy for power would definitely not abandon the Mu family for a woman. Too bad, sometimes, one could not have too many self-righteous thoughts. Mu Ling was indeed heartless and a flirt, but over these 20-plus years, he only had Sui and Chen Qingyan. Tan Shuangshuang was an exception. She was not what he had wanted. Me for extra chapters. He was similarly greedy for power. However, his greed for power was only limited to letting his sons and daughters marry for alliances and betraying their happiness. Nevertheless, he would never give up his own happiness. After all, the two women he had were orphans without any background. With Mu Ling's status and cultivation, creating marital alliances with other big families was considered normal. If Qin Qingyan did not exist in this life, perhaps Mu Ling would not have become a scum. However, this was destiny. He was destined to be unworthy of having Sui. Huaner, Mu Ling's tone became softer as his eyes begged. I am willing to forgive all that Qingyan had done. I will make her my official wife. I am only begging you, to save the Mu family. Thawed. His knees fell hard to the ground as he kneeled on the floor in the silent Mu family's courtyard. To him, official wife was merely a title. Not to mention he could no longer be humane toward her, even if he could, just based on the things Shen Qingyan had done, he could not forgive her. Chapter 1199, Mu Huan's threat for however, he could not kill Sui. He also did not wish to give up on the Mu family. Hopefully by doing this, Mu Huan would be willing to lend a hand. Ha! Mu Huan started to laugh until she started to tear. Her eyes were full of fury and disappointment. I never thought that you would make such a decision. You would rather beg me than kill Sui. When have you ever begged someone who was of a younger generation? Mu Ling, why was it that initially, when Nan Xian had treated my mother that way, you did not beg him? You should have kneeled down to beg him. I do not believe that if you had kneeled, he would still have beaten up my mother. Yet for Sui, you are actually begging me. Mu Huan's eyes were bloodshot and looked like they were about to pop out of their sockets. The more you beg me, the more I want to kill her. This despicable person should have died. A woman who steals another man's husband will die miserably. Until now, Mu Huan still felt that if it were not for Sui's existence, Chen Qingyan would have become Mu Ling's wife, and furthermore would not have suffered for so many years. When she thought about all the sufferings Chen Qingyan had to undergo, Mu Huan became so angry that she wanted to kill people. She looked at Nan Sui angrily. Mu Ling cannot bear to kill you. Then I will give you a chance. If you care about the Mu family, care about the Mu family's old master, you can kill yourself. Don't worry, I will not kill you. Either Mu Ling kills you or you commit suicide. As long as you die, I will save the Mu family. Sui calmly glanced at Mu Huan. Alright, then just annihilate the Mu family. Her words were calmly spoken and brushed past the ears of the crowd like a gentle breeze. That sentence was spoken so simply, just like asking someone to have a meal. Mu Huan was stunned. This was the woman that Mu Ling liked to the point that he was willing to abandon the Mu family. It seemed like it was just a person who was afraid of death. Nan Sui. Mu Ling shouted in anger. Your life in exchange for the survival of the entire Mu family is worth it. Who are you to reject this proposition? That's right. You are an orphan without any parents. Our Mu family has fed you for so many years and now you have lived in our Mu family for a whole year without paying. Now that the Mu family is in trouble, you want to distance yourself from these matters. Young lady Mu Huan, this woman is afraid of death. It is impossible that she would choose to end herself. Why don't we all get together to kill her? What do you think? Mu Huan did not reply, but looked at Nan Sui provocatively. Me for extra chapters. Nan Sui calmly glanced at the Mu family's clansmen who stood behind her. Her face was calm and cool. I think annihilating your Mu family is quite a good idea. After all, as long as Old Master and Xiao Qingyin are around, there will always be a Mu family. Old Master Mu laughed loudly. Sui is right. As long as I am around, nobody is to touch her. The Mu family should have long been sorted out. If you have the ability, then let the Qin family destroy all of my Mu family's people. Ha ha ha. With this incident, he was thoroughly disappointed in his clansmen. If he was lucky enough to survive this time, he would need to sort things out properly. The group that was led by Mu Ing should not be kept in the Mu family. All these people appeared to be the people of the Mu family, but in reality, they belonged to the extended families. They were at least 2 generations apart and some relations that were supposed to be cousins could not really be counted as cousins. It was merely that the Mu family had a long history and that was why there were many clansmen. In truth, these people did not have much of a familial relationship with the Mu family. There was nothing Old Master Mu was reluctant to let go. Previously, he was just unable to put his foot down and make a decision. The matter this time had allowed him to clearly understand that the Mu family needed to be sorted out. The approaching enemies had not been killed, yet internal strife had happened. This kind of thing happening once was more than enough. He did not want such a thing to happen a second time. Chapter 1200, Big Black and White Phoenix Eye. Mu Huan's face sank. Perhaps she had noticed something. She slowly turned her head around. Suddenly, a weak figure appeared before her. Chen Qingjian's face was pale. She had long been thoroughly disappointed by Mu Ling, so she was not really affected by Mu Ling's defiance of Mu Huan's request to kill Sui. Only her lips curled up into a sarcastic smile. From the moment Mu Ling decided to abandon her, she was no longer the Chen Qingyan she was before. Mu Ling. A small, weak voice called out, just like it did in the past. Mu Ling turned his head around and saw Chen Qingyan, who looked a little old. Chen Qingyan slowly walked closer and looked at Mu Ling, who was kneeling on the floor, seemingly condescending. That kind of gaze was one that Mu Ling had never seen since he knew Chen Qingyan. Chen Qingyan. He clenched his fists tightly and took a deep breath. Only then did his emotions calm down. What did you come out for? Chen Qingyan laughed lightly. Her laughter was sardonic as her gaze was filled with mockery. I came out to see what you have now become. I had never thought that you would kneel before my daughter just to avoid killing Suyi. Chen Qingyan. Mu Ling's eyes were on fire as he stared at Chen Qingyan. You have finally decided to quit acting. Due to her usual gentleness, he had been cheated for so many years. Even when he had uncovered the truth, Chen Qingyan had never admitted to being wrong. He had never thought that she would actually decide to quit acting altogether now. I had never done anything to wrong your Mu family. Everything I did back then was for your own good. It was you who have given up on me, a good person. In my entire life, I have no regrets. Ha ha ha. Old Master Mu started to laugh loudly. No regrets. Your vicious heart is exactly the same as your deceased mother. Your conscience has long been eaten by wolves. See, we do not have to be bothered by these people. My Mu family will never back down. Those who back down will no longer be a part of my Mu family. Old Master noticed the clamor outside. He was no longer bothered about the people in the courtyard but walked toward the door with both hands behind his back and steadfast footsteps. From the beginning to the end, Suyi did not look at these people. She remained calm and indifferent as she walked past Chen Qingyan without stopping. Chen Qingyan clenched her fists with a death grip. She could not understand. Even at this critical juncture, why was Nan Suyi still so calm and indifferent? Was she really unafraid of the people from the Qin family? Me for extra chapters. Mu Ling, Chen Qingyan sneered as she looked at Mu Ling condescendingly and her voice cold. Take a good look. This woman you have chosen in the end had ignored the Mu family for her own life. If it were me, I would definitely not have been like that. Mu Ling froze. He himself did not know if this choice was right or wrong. However, he had done many mistakes in this life. He had also yet to kill anyone he liked. Making him take action against Suyi. He really could not do it. Mu Ling lowered his head and looked at his own palm. His handsome face had a bitter smile. I owe Suyi too much. I know I cannot compensate for the mistakes I made, but I cannot kill her. The Mu family. I will do my best to protect it. What did Qin Fei need? She only wanted Nan Xian, that was all. Too bad, Nan Xian was not in Tianshan Manor. Otherwise, perhaps the Mu family would still have a chance of survival. Outside the Mu family. The originally quiet street was crowded with people. Chapter 1201, Big Black and White Phoenix 2. The Mu family's gate was blocked by the impenetrable crowd, so thick was the crowd that not even a single fly could fly out. At the forefront of the crowd was a good-looking young girl with soft features and a stunning figure. She seemed even more heroic in the armor she was wearing. Compared to her usual look, she seemed like a completely different person. Standing next to the young girl was a middle-aged man with a handsome and masculine face. His cold eyes were staring straight at the closed gate. Like the Luo family, this old master of the Mu family was also Gu Shi's dog. He had even led a group of people to fight him. He had caught Luo Fei from the Luo family, and now all that was left was this Mu family. Once the Mu family fell, Gu Shi would be left all alone without anyone to help him. Suddenly, the tightly closed gate of the Mu family opened. The old Master Mu, who now was in good health, took a step forward. He was like a big tree, blocking the gate and blocking out the crowd for the Mu family behind him. Suyi and the old butler came and stood behind the old Master Mu on each of his sides. Just 3 people, facing countless enemies in front of them. Qin Li, Qin Fei. The old Master Mu glanced at the people present fiercely. Oh, there is also the Shao family from one of the 4 major clans of Tianshan Manor, and the 10 small clans. Besides the 4 major clans, there were also 10 smaller clans in Tianshan Manor. The funny thing was that nowadays, besides him and Luo Fei, no one seemed to be on Gusher's side. Muling, Gusher is too preoccupied with his life while Luo Fei has been caught again. You are the only one left now. It'll give you a chance if you hand over Nan Xian and Feng Ruqing as well as that rebel son, Qin Chen, to me. It'll also offer you a chance to join the Qin family. Qin Li straightened his posture and lifted his head haughtily. The old Master Mu laughed coldly. I've never bowed down to anyone in my life, and it will still the same now. Nan Xian is my grandson, Ruqing is my granddaughter-in-law, and Qin Chen has nothing to do with your Qin family since long ago, so why are you asking me to hand them over to you? Oh, I forgot, Qin Li continued, Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian are looking for that dead girl from the Gu family, and nobody knows whether they are alive or dead. It's impossible for you to hand them over. Well, what about handing over Nan Xian's mother to me, and the rift between us will be over. The old Master Mu did not utter a single word but remained cold. There was no wind, but a fierce storm surging up around him, making the entire sky seem colder. Qin Li, I've chosen to come out today, which means that I'm ready to fight you all the way. Boom! The old master's energy surged out of him, pulling the trees and the surroundings from their roots, and toward Qin Li and the others. Dark Dragon's roar sounded on an island outside Tianshan Manor. He could not hold back his tears, crying so hard that tears fell like rain. We've finally found a place. 1 year. They had wandered the seas for a whole year. Those spirit beasts in the sea were useless as they could not even find a place for him. In the end, he and the White Phoenix had to walk through countless islands to find this place. Dark Dragon's tears flowed down again as he thought about Feng Ruqing, whom he had not seen for over a year. He moved around fast in the sky and soon transformed into a young and handsome man, walking slowly with tears of joy. Chapter 1202, Big Black and White Phoenix 3. The White Phoenix was in tears too. Initially, it wanted to use the Dark Dragon to help it find the route and dump him later, but it never expected to spend a year searching for it. Oh, Sui, I can finally meet you. Oh, I have missed you so much. 1 year. 1 day of not seeing here felt like 3 years. Now, could one count how many years did it feel like they had not seen each other? They were rarely separated from the moment they had met, let alone 1 year apart. Me for extra chapters. It's all your fault. You don't even know the way out, causing me and Sui to be apart for 1 year. And I don't know if my Sui is being bullied by that bastard Muling or not. The White Phoenix wiped the tears from its eyes and glared at the Dark Dragon. The Dark Dragon laughed coldly. You still have the nerve to blame me. This whole year, have you done something else besides eating? When did I not look for a way out? If I had known that you didn't even know the way, I wouldn't have taken a burden like you. The White Phoenix sighed and retorted defiantly. You talk as if you hadn't eaten the chicken drumsticks that I've stolen before. You claim to have a spirit body, and that you don't need to eat anything. If so, don't ever touch my chicken drumsticks again. The Dark Dragon was speechless. Had it not been for Little Nine, he would definitely have killed this White Phoenix. The young man did not pay more attention to the crying White Phoenix. He wiped the tears from his face, grunted coldly, and headed forward in haughty steps. Big Black, wait. You haven't told me yet, how did you transform? The White Phoenix hurriedly chased after him. I've to be human as soon as possible so that I can pursue Sui. I won't let that bastard make the first move. Sui is mine, and no one can touch her. Although Sui had not approved it yet, it had always thought Sui was its woman. The White Phoenix was different from that bastard. It would love only Sui for the rest of its life. Tianshan Manor was quite big. In a small city not far away from Heavenly City, Feng Tianyu stopped in his tracks as he heard the crowd's discussion. I heard that the Qin family has imprisoned the Luo family and is now trying to get rid of the Mu family. Isn't the Luo family the right-hand man of the Gu family? Why is Gu Shi doing nothing when Luo Fei is imprisoned? I'm not sure about this either. I just heard others talking about it. Gu Shi seems to have run into something too, and I'm not sure what those things are. By the way, do you think the old master of the Mu family will be taken away like Luo Fei? Initially, Luo Fei and the Qin family were going to be in-laws, but unexpectedly they have ended up becoming enemies to each other. By the way, the Qin family hates the Mu family because they have taken away the Qin family's adopted son. I wonder what the Mu family has said to that ungrateful boy, giving him the nerve to rebel against the Qin family. If the Qin family had not saved that ungrateful boy in the first place, will he still be alive today? He's willing to bite the hand that feeds him, so no wonder the Qin family is so furious. I've also heard that Qin Fei cares so much about that ungrateful boy since he was a child, giving him all kinds of good things, and treating him as her own brother. But who knew that boy would hurt her just because of another woman? Tisk tisk, it's all karma. That ungrateful boy. His name is Qin Chen, right? In my opinion, the old master of the Mu family isn't any better either. They're all a bunch of people who deserve to die. Nailin Yan's footsteps were a bit unsteady. She stumbled a few times and almost fell to the ground. Luckily, Feng Tianyu had noticed it and quickly wrapped his arms around her. Chapter 1203, Qin Chen. When Qing'er came to fetch me, I have met Qin Chen at the Tang family's house. Nailin Yan's face was pale. I was quite fond of that kid back then. Although he had a cold personality, I could tell, just by looking at him, that he was a good kid. Feng Tianyu remained silent, tightening his arms around Nailin Yan's trembling body. Jiu Ming has told us that within Tianshan Manor, only the adopted son from the Qin family came from an unknown background. It is more likely that he is our child. I believe what Paramount says. Yenner, but how can it be Qin Chen? How can it be him? If Qin Chen was her child, it meant that all this time, her child was standing in front of her, and she did not even recognize him. These people claimed that Qin Chen was an ungrateful son, but since the first meeting, she could see that Qin Chen was not like what they had said. That was impossible. Nailin Yan tightened her grip on Feng Tianyu's hand. How far is this place from Tianshan Manor? I want to go to Tianshan Manor right now. I want to see him. Now. Whether Qin Chen was her child or not, she would never let him encounter any danger. She felt that Qin Chen could easily get her attention, and she had grown somewhat fond of him. At that time, considering that Qin Chen was Qing'er's friend, she had thought that it was natural for her to have such feelings. She had never thought otherwise. In her mind, since her son and her daughter were born at the same time, they should look a little bit alike. And for this reason, she simply ignored all the doubts that she had back then. Yenner, don't worry. He'll be fine, and so will the in-laws. We need to rush to the Mu family now. Feng Tianyu's expression was cold and sullen. It was as if a violent storm was going to explode inside his eyes. Hopefully, they could arrive in time. Mu Manor, Heavenly City. A whirl of strong wind blew into Qin Li's sleeve and collided with the old Master Mu's energy in the air. A loud bang echoed in the sky and sent those of lower tier flying out. Qin Li's sleeves were torn to pieces, and a thin line of blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. He wiped it off with the back of his hand and looked up at the calm old man in the void. Compared to that Luo Fei of the Luo family, this old master of the Mu family was too powerful, and it was not easy to go against his strength. me for extra chapters. Therefore, when the old Master Mu was about to rush forward again, Qinli had already taken a few steps backward and sneered. Boom! A figure dressed in green flashed through the air, blocking Qinli's face. The young woman lifted her sleeves and blocked all the forces that came from the old Master Mu's sudden attack, deflecting it to him. A powerful force blasted into the old master's chest. He snorted and spat out a mouthful of blood, falling backward before landing on the steps. Old Master! Master! Siyi and the old butler's expressions changed drastically. They rushed toward the old master and lifted his trembling body. The old master's face was pale as he stared at Qin Feier with a serious look. Feier, kill this old thief of the Mu family. Qinli sneered and laughed coldly. So what if this old bastard of the Mu family was better than him? That old man had lost to his daughter. A few moments later, Qin Feier still did not make any move. Her hands were clenched into fists, and her face seemed to be somewhat in discomfort. Her forehead was already covered in cold sweats and her lips were slightly pale. Old Master Mu pushed away Si's hand and gradually walked toward Qin Feier firmly and steadily. He was determined to fight until his last breath. Qin Feier, not only does my grandson not want to take you as his concubine, but am also disgusted by a woman like you. Feng Ruqing is my only granddaughter-in-law. If you keep pestering my grandson again, I won't let you go even when I've become a ghost. Qin Feier had never been humiliated like this since she was a child. His face turned paler. She held the long sword on her hand and thrust it into the old Master Mu's body, sending him back a few steps. Blood oozed from the old Master Mu's chest, but he did not even frown. His gaze remained cold and stern. Chapter 1205, Qin Chen 3. Qin Feier once again felt the pain in her heart as if it was burning with fire. She could not help but grabbed her chest. How could this be? Why could she not use her spiritual powers anymore? Was it because of the repercussion of that spirit herb? No. Something was wrong. The repercussion of that spirit herb would only make her grow older, nothing more than that. She did not feel this pain before when she defeated Luo Fei and fought with Gu Shi. Suddenly, something flashed in Qin Feier's mind, which seemed to fill her face even more discomfort. She had been fine until today. The only thing that she had done today was consume the last drug primer that Qin Chen had left behind. No, it was impossible. Even if Qin Chen wanted to leave the Qin family, he would not do this to her since she was so good to him. She must have had the wrong assumption. Qin Feier calmed herself and walked toward the old Master Mu. She then looked at Sui, who was sympathetically standing in front of the old Master Mu. Aunt Su, initially, you would have been my mother-in-law. It's a pity that you've chosen that wicked woman Feng Ruqing rather than me. You've pushed away my kindness and my gentleness, and driven me away. I, Qin Feier, have been treating people with kindness all my life, but Feng Ruqing and Gu Yi have been targeting me relentlessly. They didn't allow me to be a concubine in the Mu family, and they have even taken my brother from me. We are irreconcilable enemies. Qin Feier's eyes were bloodshot. Her good manners, kindness, and gentleness were all gone because of these people. They had turned her into a demon. Her energy suddenly became stronger, and even if her heart was burning, she no longer cared about it. She stared coldly at the crowd in front of her with her pair of crimson eyes. The ambience became eerier. The wind was so gusty that even the sunshine in the sky had suddenly disappeared. The sound of killing and shouting sounded from behind her. Si looked up and saw a group of young men and women holding sharp weapons, killing people from the back of the crowd. Those were the orphans whom she had adopted back then. After 20 years, these children had grown up. Suyi's face was filled with tears and her lips trembled as she was rendered speechless. Me for extra chapters. I've only been gone for a few days now, and I've heard about the change in Heavenly City. An old, fragile voice thundered in the sky. Little Suyi, something big has happened, why didn't you tell me? Hai Rong walked out of the void, standing with one hand behind his back and smiling. Chapter 1206, Qin Chen 4, Lady Suyi, Master, be careful. The old butler was so shocked. He disregarded his own safety and rushed toward his masters, shielding them from the attack of the raging storm. Suyi did not dodge the attack. She placed herself in front of this powerful force. The old master had suffered a severe injury just now, and she could not bear to just let the old master die. Hai Rong did not expect Qin Fei would suddenly strike out of anger. The orphans cried out in pain, and their eyes were all red. Boom! The boundless power was like a gigantic dragon, devouring the three little shrimps that were floating in the air above the sea. Everyone believed that Suyi and the old master would not be able to avoid the impact even after the old butler had placed himself shielding them. Qin Li guffawed boisterously. That's what happens when you pick the wrong team. The clans that followed Qin Li were glad that they had made the right choice. Even the old master of the Mu family was no match for Qin Fei, let alone them. Among the people present, some were angry, some were grieved, and some were glad. But all the emotions disappeared when the storm was over. The sun appeared in the sky again. Suyi was still standing on the steps and was supporting the old master with a cold, expressionless gaze. Qin Li's laughter stopped abruptly, and without waiting for him to ask about her, Qin Fei spat a mouthful of blood. Her body seemed somewhat weak. She staggered and almost fell to the ground. Fei! Qin Li was so shocked that he quickly ran to Qin Fei and held her arm, asking anxiously, "What is wrong with you?" Qin Fei covered her chest with her hands. Her voice wavered, and she gritted her teeth to keep herself from crying out. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded, freezing the surrounding atmosphere. Me for extra chapters. I know what has happened to her. To the Qin family, this voice was very familiar. Qin Li's eyes reddened. He slowly raised his head and stared hard at the young man who had emerged from behind the crowd. The young man's face was handsome, and his black robe made him look even more stunning. His gaze was still as clear as water, but it was not as bright as before. His aura was chilling to the bones, causing the people present to shiver in fear. Qin Chen. Qin Li's face darkened. You finally have the guts to show yourself. The young man walked slowly toward the Mu family without sparing a glance at Qin Li. Suyi felt much better after she saw the young man. Didn't you go to the chief manor to help Gusher? Why did you come back? Well, be fine here. It's hard for Nan Xian to come back if they don't have someone out there to help them. He has almost recovered from his injury, and he has enough strength to stand guard outside the realm. I came back to settle my own affairs. There were some things, some debts he had to deal with. It was she who had taught him. No more patience, vengeance must be exacted. Perhaps it was the girl's stunning smile that came to Qin Chen's mind again, softening him a little. A smile that was as bright as sunshine appeared on his handsome face. But to Qin Fei, it felt like a thorn poking at her heart. Qin Fei stood up straight but was trembling. Her grief-stricken gaze was fixed upon Qin Chen when she asked, "Qin Chen, tell me. Are you the one who has done this to me?" Chapter 1207, Qin Chen v. The stern-faced young man looked at Qin Fei coldly. His expression was cold and distant as if he had never smiled at her in the past. She had always cared for him, but it still could not touch his cold heart. Isn't he the ungrateful kid from the Qin family? He's really choosing to stand by the Mu family. All these years, the Qin family had fed and brought up a dog, raising such an ungrateful kid. Now, he is even giving up his adoptive father and mother just because of another woman. He has not given it much thought. Without the Qin family, he's nothing and would have starved to death back then on the streets. But I heard Maiden Qin said just now, something has happened to her body, and it was Qin Chen who did it. If this matter has something to do with him, that ungrateful kid is not as simple as that. That wicked kid deserves to die. Initially, those families were silent, only obeying the Qin family's orders. But since Qin Chen appeared, these people sneered, and their eyes turned cold. Qin Chen walked slowly toward the Qin family. Qin Feier, I will only ask you once. Do I, Qin Chen, owe anything to the Qin family? Qin Feier's body trembled. She clenched her fists and had trouble breathing. Facing Qin Chen had always softened her a little, even after Qin Chen had turned his back on the Qin family. But his question had suddenly made her silent. Qin Li laughed coldly. Of course you owe the Qin family. All these years, we've raised you well, yet you repay us with betrayal. It's better to raise a dog than you. Qin Chen's face was cold, sullen, and expressionless. Her gaze gave them a chill. I don't care who I am, and I don't care about the Qin family. The moment you used my blood as a drug primer for Qin Feier, I don't owe the Qin family anymore. It's you who owe me. These words. He would never have been able to say it back then. He had never exposed the secret about him adopted by the Qin family to the world, and even Feng Ruqing. Because the world would not believe him, and Feng Ruqing would have grieved. Fortunately, Qing'er was not here. And now, he did not care if these people believed him or not, as he only wanted to get a clear conscience. Me for extra chapters. Qin Chen. Qin Feier's face turned pale, and she bellowed imperiously, do you know what you're talking about? She was his sister. How could he expose the most important secret of the Qin family in front of so many people? Qin Chen stopped and stared at Qin Feier coldly. When I was 10 years old, I couldn't bear it anymore and had run from the Qin family. Your body has recovered quite a bit back then, and the Qin family didn't even look for me, a useless kid. It was not until your condition relapsed again that the Qin family had immediately started looking for my whereabouts. I have long experienced great hardship and faced a lot of insults. In the past few years, even though I had suffered a lot, it was better than becoming a drug primer in the Qin family. And everything has changed after I met Feng Ruqing. She made me feel at home and made me understand what family and friends are. I once lived for the Qin family, but now, I, Qin Chen, only live for Feng Ruqing. Qin Chen was a cold and quiet person. He did not care if others called him an ungrateful kid. Chapter 1208, Qin Chen 6. However, he did not want to hear any more insults about Feng Ruqing. He wanted to expose the Qin family's fake niceness in front of everyone. Even if all the people present were from the Qin family, he wanted to make it clear that Feng Ruqing had never done anything wrong. Then why did you come back? Qin Feier's face reflected discomfort. She was staring hard at the handsome young man. Qin Chen's gaze somewhat drifted off before he smiled and said, because of Qingqing. Qin Feier froze as she could not understand what he meant. Didn't you want to be Nan Xian's concubine? I hate Nan Xian. I hate anyone who's close to Feng Ruqing. But for me, as long as Feng Ruqing is happy, I will never let anyone hinder her happiness. So, I'm back. Qin Feier's eyes narrowed with anger, and her face was as pale as paper as she thought about the changes in her body. My body. Is it really your fault? Yes. I've consumed all the herbs that I need after returning here. I've also learned much about all sorts of herbs from feng ruching. So, I didn't offer my blood. There was nothing wrong with being honest. But a person should not be too honest, especially with some people who did not deserve it. He finally understood these words after he met feng ruching. Initially, when using my blood, I only needed to add a spirit herb to make it work. However, I've promised Qingqing that I would not harm myself again. So I took one of the Qin family's spirit beasts and used its blood with few colorless and tasteless spirit herbs. The Qin family had grounded the spirit beasts, but some of them were still untamed. And the Qin family had trusted Qingqing too much that they did not restrict his freedom to walk around freely. There were plenty of opportunities for Qingqing to do that. I was right in my calculation. A total of 20 drug primers will make you unable to use your spiritual power. Initially, I wanted to see you drink those 20 times before leaving the Qin family. So, it seems that you have consumed the last drug primer today. Every time feng ruching was mentioned, Qingqing's smile became as bright as sunshine, which was something that Qin Feier had never seen before. Qin Feier's voice trembled. Why? If that's the case, why did you leave the Qin family again, me for extra chapters? Because, Qingqing paused. My Qingqing has come to me and asked me to follow her. If I insisted on staying in the Qin family, she should be most embarrassed. I could not let her lose her face in front of other people. I will follow her whenever she asks me to. Qin Feier's legs weakened, but she forced herself to hold on. Her face turned paler, and her eyes were filled with grief. She never thought that her brother whom she had loved the most would maltreat her. Si handed the old master to the old butler and walked slowly toward Qingqing. By rights, as Nanxian's mother, she should be worried when Qingqing expressed his feelings toward feng ruching. However, what had happened to Qingqing was so heartbreaking. Qingqing, the Qin family has made you suffer and called you as an ungrateful kid. You have made the right choice leaving the Qin family. If you don't mind, you can consider me as your mother. Besides, Nanxian also needs a little brother to be with him. There was an expression of sympathy on Suyi's cold face. She gently patted Qingqing's back and let out a sigh. All these things. It seems like Qing'er doesn't know yet. Otherwise, Qing'er would have already annihilated the Qin family because she cared so much for Qingqing. Chapter 1209, Qingqing 7. Qingqing. Qin Li's face was cold and fierce as he bellowed, "Don't ever forget, without the Qin family, you would have lost your life a long time ago. Your father and your mother didn't want you at all. It was the Qin family that has picked you up, given you such an honorable status, and raised you well for so many years. Becoming the drug primer for Feier is a chance for you to return the favor. Who are you to question us?" If Qin Feier was not in pain, Qin Li would have made her attack those people again. But in this situation, he had to allow her to recover first. After all, that old master of the Mu family had always been strong. The flunkies behind the Qin family looked at each other with a mocking gaze before they turned to Qingqing. What Master Qin said is true. The Qin family has saved your life. Forget about becoming a drug primer, you should not even think twice about sacrificing your life at their behest. Why are people nowadays so ungrateful? If all men are like you, no one in this world will dare to be kind again. Qingqing, if I were you, I would never bite the hand that feeds me. God is watching your every move, and you'll always get what's coming to you. Suyi had never seen such a shameless person before. She was unable to remain calm, and so she coldly shouted, "Enough." Did Shaochen ever beg the Qin family to adopt him? With the kindness the Qin family thought they had, maybe he didn't need it. If he could have made a choice back then, he would have rather died in the middle of nowhere than enter a place like Qin Manor. C did not know how to be a drug primer, but when a young child would rather run away from home than stay with the Qin family who had raised him, she could assume that the process must be so painful for him. If Qin Chen was given another chance, he would surely have chosen to die back then, and would never have set his foot in a place that had grounded him for nearly 20 years. Fine, the old Master Mu pushed the old butler's hand. His robe was stained with blood, but his pace was steady, and his gaze was stern and cold. This is the first time in my life that I've met such a shameless person. Qin Li. I've always disliked you and your Qin family, so we'll settle this today. God is watching your every move. These words are true indeed. But today, I'll throw this phrase back to you. Old Master Mu laughed wildly, and the laughter echoed in the sky for a long time. Boom! A boundless power surged out violently. Qin Li panicked as he could feel the old master's energy. He turned his head to Qin Feier. Feier, how's it going? Do you want to try again, me for extra chapters? Chapter 12:10. Everyone has arrived at with Qin Feier condition now, even strangers would feel sympathy for her. However, Qin Chen was as calm as water and his face remained expressionless. Feier. Qin Li hurriedly supported Qin Feier's trembling body. His eyes were filled with anger as they stared fiercely at Qin Chen. Qin Chen, you are such an ungrateful kid. It's my fault in trusting you. You're so ungrateful. I should not save your life in the first place. Boom! A wave of strong forces suddenly surged out of his palm, transforming into countless sharp swords in the air before swiftly rushing toward Qin Chen. Before the swords could reach the target, the old Master Mu was already standing next to Qin Chen. He waved his sleeve, and all the swords in the air suddenly disappeared without a trace. The old man's sleeves were swaying along with the breeze. The sky was getting dark, and his pale face turned more serious under the sunset. He stared at the Qin family and the group behind them coldly. Sui is right. If you give this boy another chance, he would not have chosen to become a member of the Qin family, and the Qin family has no right to control his life. Boundless spiritual forces surged around the old master like a raging storm, constantly striking against them. There was a big difference between Qin Li's power and the old master's after all. Qin Li quickly lifted his arm to resist the forces but failed. His body fell backward from this powerful storm, landing in the crowd behind him loudly and helplessly. It seemed that Qin Li could not even block the old master's attack, and he felt so embarrassed about it. His face was somewhat pale with a trail of blood hanging from the corner of his mouth. He raised his hand, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and slowly rose from the ground. That's all that you've got? Qin Li laughed out loud. He glanced at the person who had just emerged from behind the Mu family with a faint mocking smile. So what if I can't beat you? After all, the chief position in Tianshan Manor will be passed to another person soon. Ha ha ha. The sky was getting dark, and all the streets in Tianshan Manor were dusky. The old Master Mu's eyes narrowed, and before he could understand what Qin Li had said just now, a peal of cold laughter suddenly resounded in his ears. So, Qin Chen is really such an ungrateful kid. Grandfather, I don't care what Master Qin is doing here. Qin Chen is from the Qin family, and if he wants to settle scores with him, as an outsider, it seems that you have no right to interfere. Qin Li's eyes lit up as he glanced at Qin Chen gloomily. Me for extra chapters. That's right, I'm going to clean up the sect. Qin Chen is from the Qin family, even if I kill him, you guys have no right to be nosy. He knew that because of Qin Chen, the rebellious son, Feier could not use her spiritual power anymore. And now there was no way they could continue fighting with the Mu family. But Qin Chen was a member of the Qin family. He had betrayed the Qin family and done such a thing. The Qin family wanted to kill him, so the outsiders had no right to interfere with their family matters. Mu Huan. The old Master Mu's face changed drastically as he turned to Mu Huan furiously. Mu Ling, who had come along with Mu Huan, froze as he did not expect Mu Huan to say that. He did not like Qin Chen, but now the real enemy of the Mu family was the Qin family. Mu Huan. Why is she helping the Qin family? Indeed. Even a fool like Mu Ling could sense that there was something fishy with Mu Huan's words. His face reflected discomfort as he came to his senses. Mu Huan, you, shut up. You have no right to say anything here. Chapter 12:11. Everyone has arrived. Mu Huan glanced fiercely at Mu Ling and slowly turned to Sui again with her overbearing gaze. But I'll give you a chance. If you kowtow to my mother and admit your mistake, I'll help you to save the boy. Sui glanced at Mu Huan. Her white robe was as white as snow, and she looked simple but elegant against the evening sky. Oh, her tone remained calm, and there was no sign of anger on her face. She then turned around to look at Qin Li. Qin Chen was just your adopted son, and I've decided to adopt him as my son. Now, he is not from the Qin family anymore, and later he will change his family name to Nan. Fortunately, Feng Tianyu was not here when Sui said this. If he had known this, he would surely fight with her about it. There was no doubt about it. She had taken his daughter, and now his son. Did she plan to let him live all alone for the rest of his life? Mu Huan let out a cold laugh as she had already known about Sui's plan. It seems that your concern for Qin Chen is also hypocritical. My mother is different from you. With her kindness, she will definitely lay down her pride to save others. It is no wonder, only a selfish man like Mu Ling would love a hypocritical woman like you. Suddenly, the skilled masters, who were initially standing behind Mu Huan, made a move. They moved as fast as lightning, and in a flash, they were already rushing towards Sui and the others. Before this, Sui and a few others had some difficulty facing advanced holy warriors. If it were not for Qin Chen's initial move, they would not have been able to easily subdue the Qin family. Now, above them stood several holy warriors. And two of them had even made a breakthrough to advanced holy warrior tier. The old Master Mu's face was filled with alarm and disbelief. Sui's face remained calm, but her eyes were also full of caution. Sui. Mu Ling was stunned and quickly rushed to Sui's side. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind him. Mu Ling, you have to think carefully. Huaner has brought those people, but if you go to defend Sui, they will surely kill you too. Chen Qinyan laughed coldly and walked next to Mu Ling with a mocking smile. Me for extra chapters. Mu Ling froze as a flicker of hesitation flashed in his eyes. Because of his hesitation, those people were already swooping towards Sui, the old Master Mu, and others. The spiritual qi was like a monstrous wolf, and the sky was dimmed by the multiple strikes from the many holy warriors, setting off a vicious aura. Suddenly, an angry roar of a phoenix thundered in the sky. Sui froze for a moment and hurriedly looked up in the sky. She was distracted by this and did not dodge the attack from a man in front of her. She could only helplessly watch the fierce punch coming at her. She had not felt such pain in such a long time. Sui then saw a flash of white light and a huge figure appearing in front of her, blocking out all the raging storms for her. She spat a mouthful of blood, but the huge phoenix remained standing in front of Sui. It had always loved to cry, but at this moment, its firm eyes were only filled with a monstrous fury. Don't touch Sui. No one can touch her. Because the person behind it was the only person whom it would try its best to protect and keep safe. Chapter 12:12 Everyone has arrived 320 years ago, the day they first met. Her body was battered and bruised, and she was with a child. And it was abandoned, hiding alone in the mountain to heal its wounds. Two beings with the same pain had met and since then, had spent countless difficult years together. It would not let anyone hurt her. Sui deserved to enjoy all the beautiful things in this world. The white phoenix's body was trembling, not knowing if the wound was too painful or because it was panicking. It could not imagine if it had arrived later and that punch had already hit Sui, how could her delicate body withstand it? Luckily, he was able to come on time, and Sui did not get hurt. White Phoenix, Sui could not remember the last time she had shed tears. It seemed as if she had not cried since she had left with Nan Xian. Now, she could not stop her tears from flowing down as she saw the white phoenix standing in front of her. The white phoenix panicked and quickly used its wings to wipe away her tears. Sui, you used to say that I love to cry, so why are you crying now? Don't cry. I'm really not in pain at all. I'm strong enough to protect Sui, just like Nan Xian is protecting Qingqing. Who sent you here? Sui turned and asked. The white phoenix pouted. I have missed you, and I will go wherever Sui goes. Nan Xian can pursue little Qingqing, so I also can pursue you. It felt that it was completely transparent with her, but Sui did not understand it. She touched the white phoenix's head and said, the world says that pets are clingy. So are you. The white phoenix was speechless. It was not a pet. No. This phoenix was going to be Nan Xian's father. Where's my little nine, me for extra chapters? A dragon's roar sounded in the sky. The dark dragon looked down from the sky anxiously, but there was no sign of the person he wanted to see. Where did that wild man hide my little nine? I also want to be a hero and rescue my little nine, but why didn't God give me that chance? White Phoenix ignored the dark dragon's roar. It wiped Sui's tears once again and said, Sui, little nine's parents are also here. We have met them during the journey, so we have come here together. The white phoenix and the dark dragon were spirit beasts that could fly extremely fast after transforming. They just happened to run into Feng Tianyu and his wife, who were headed this way, so they had brought them along. Sui was stunned, and when she looked up, she saw the two of them standing on the dark dragon's back. Nailin Yen could not take her eyes off of Qin Qin since the first time she laid eyes on him, ignoring all the people around her. Qin Qin also raised his head. His black eyes were fixed upon the two people on the dark dragon's back. Thinking that they were Feng Ruking's parents, his stern expression had gradually eased up. Unfortunately, there was no time for them to chat. The skilled masters behind Mu Huan once again made a move, rushing toward Qin Qin and the others with an unstoppable force. Chainer. Nailin Yan's face changed drastically. Feng Tianyu was even more furious. He jumped off the dark dragon's back and rushed toward Qin Qin. The dark dragon looked at Qin Qin before he turned to Feng Tianyu and followed after him. He asked, Aunt, who is that man? As the white phoenix had said, they were little nine's parents. Well, her parents were his parents too, and he wanted to show honor to them. Chapter 12:13 Feng Wuhui, Tianya I Nailin Yen rushed down from the sky anxiously, but she still answered his question patiently as she seemed to like that dark dragon. He might be my missing son. The black dragon was dumbfounded for a moment before roaring furiously. Nailin Yan's missing son. Isn't he little nine's brother? These bastards. How dare they bullied little nine's brother? It was the same as disrespecting Big Black. Damn. Big Black's overbearing momentum had somehow caused the boundless spiritual chi in the surrounding to surge violently before gathering at one spot. Big Black was at the center of the spot. Not only the crowd led by Qinli were shocked, but the old Master Mu and the others were also startled as they looked up at the dark dragon that was roaring in the sky. A violent storm of spiritual chi surrounded it, and the sky was darkened as if it were the end of the world. Indeed. The scene shocked the crowd into silence. No one knew what was happening. They could only feel that the spiritual chi in the entire heavenly city was converging toward Big Black, making him look even more terrifying. Mu Huan was frightened. A look of shock flashed across her pale face as she gritted her teeth tightly. Mother, if I told Lord Jia Axayan about this, would he capture this dark dragon for me? She did not know how strong this dark dragon was, but the violent storm formed from the powerful spiritual chi had almost scared her to death. It was even more powerful than Gu Shi. Therefore, Mu Huan had liked him from the first moment she saw the dark dragon and wanted him at all cost. Mu Shi suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the dark dragon in the sky gloomily. His lips curved into a mocking smile when he heard Mu Huan's words. Lord Jia Axayan loves you so much. If you ask for it, he will definitely agree. Yes. In Tianshan Manor, the only one who could subdue this dark dragon was Jia Axayan. And not even Gu Shi. Mu Huan's stricken gaze was fixed upon the dark dragon, and nobody knew what she was thinking. She did not utter another word as her eyes were filled with determination. Me for extra chapters. At the back hill behind the chief manor, Gu Shi was sitting on the grass. His face was a bit pale, and his body had not fully recovered from his injuries. His gaze was still cast toward the barren land not far away as he waited in silence. At the same time, the spiritual chi around him was suddenly drained away by a powerful force. He was surprised as he saw a tremendous force gathered in the sky and gradually forming a violent storm. It was so powerful that it could make people shake in fear. Manor Master. Elder Zhang silently stood behind Gu Shi and asked, the powerful force just now, it's the surrounding spiritual chi. Gu Shi's face darkened. This world has been established for thousands of years, and during these years, there have always been creatures that have been transformed by the surrounding spiritual chi. These creatures can mobilize the spiritual chi at their will, and once these creatures have grown up, no one in this world can be their match. Elder Zhang's heart shuddered. Then, will this cause harm to Tianshan Manor? Gu Shi did not utter another word. He remained in silence for quite a while before he started to speak again. Those who have been transformed by the surrounding spiritual chi are as pure as a child. If they follow those who do good, they will be good. But if they are subjugated by evil, they will be evil. Chapter 12:14, Feng Wuhui, Tianya. Two children are born pure, like a blank sheet of paper, whom they become is dependent on the parents who educate them. For example, Chen Qingyan. She was a woman who was as evil as her mother. Manor Master, now you tell me, is it good or evil? Elder Zhang remained in silence for quite a while before he asked again. Gu Shi shook his head. I'm not sure, and I can't think about other things right now. But the surrounding spiritual chi is located at Mu Manor. I don't know if someone from the Mu family has subjugated it, or the Qin family has brought it with them. He was clear about the Qin family bringing someone to harm the Mu family, which was why he had asked Qin Chen to return there as he could guard this boundary on his own now. Elder Zhang, you can bring along our skilled masters to help. It'll be fine here. But, Manor Master, your body, Elder Zhang looked worried. The Manor Master and Qin Feier had fought back then. Qin Feier was unable to defeat the Manor Master, but he had still suffered some light injuries. Perhaps the Qin family wanted to get rid of people who were protecting the chief manor first, which was why they had attacked the Luo family and the Mu family first. Fine. I'll wait for little Qing and the others here. You can help Master Mu, after all. The chief manor and the old Master Mu are still in-laws, and that's all I can do right now. The Qin family was right. He was too busy looking after himself. In the battle 2 days ago, not only was he injured, but even the chief manor's skilled masters had been killed and wounded. The Qin family felt that he would not get anywhere, so they wanted to kill the others first. Cough. Gu Shi coughed and sneered. You should go. If you help the Mu family, it's the same as giving a warning to Qin Li. I'm not seriously injured, so I can afford to send you to help them there. By this way, maybe we'll have a chance. A chance to help Yi return now. He could not die. If he died, Yi would never come back. Half a year ago, he had discovered an ancient book by chance in the secret room in the chief manor. It was from that ancient book that he had learned the origin of the boundary and the way to break the seal. The people inside could not get out without help from the outside. Therefore, he could only stay in the chief manor, and once they returned, he could go back to the battle. Maybe, me for extra chapters. Gu Shi was still hoping. Besides Yi, Nan Xian was also trapped within the formation. He was a man who had always made him sigh. So, if they returned, the Qin family would never dare to be arrogant again. Therefore, even though he was severely injured in that battle, he still managed to hold himself up in front of the Qin family as he was afraid that the Qin family would kill the manor master first. Otherwise, those people within the boundary would never be able to return. Manor master. Elder Zhang's face was filled with worry. Gu Shi laughed. Hurry and go. I'm fine here. Master Mu is Yi's future father-in-law, so I can't just stand here and watch the Mu family fall. Even if we can't do anything anymore, we must at least do our best to help him, do you understand? This was the only sincerity he could give. If it were not for the need to guard the boundary of this place, he would have dragged his wounded body to fight the Qin family, but he could not do that now. He could not act so recklessly. All right. Elder Zhang's voice was rough and hoarse. He looked at Gu Shi, who was sitting on the ground as he wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. He then turned around firmly and disappeared into the back of the mountain.